Section 2 of Weird Tales, Jules de Grandin, Volume 1, by Seabury Quinn. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Horror on the Links, Part 2. Mrs. Cornelia Comstock was a lady of imposing physique and even more imposing manner. She was wont to receive respectful and ceremonious consideration from society reporters, her fellow club members, even from solicitors for causes. But to de Grandin she was simply a woman who had information which he desired. Prefacing his inquiry with a sort of bow none but a Frenchman can achieve, he began directly. "Madame Comstock, do you, or did you ever know one Dr. Beneckendorf?" Mrs. Comstock, who was used to dominating her husband, her daughter, and all mankind in general, drew herself stiffly erect and directed a withering gaze at him. "My good man," she began, as though he were an overcharging taxi driver, but the Frenchman met her cold eyes with eyes equally cold and uncompromising. "You will answer my questions, please," he told her. "Primarily I represent the Republic of France, but I also represent humanity. Once more, please, did you ever know a Dr. Beneckendorf?" Mrs. Comstock's imperious glance lowered before de Grandin's unwinking stare, and her thin lips twitched slightly as she replied, "Yes." "Ah, we make progress. When did you know him? In what circumstances? Believe me, you may speak in confidence before me and Dr. Trowbridge, but please to speak frankly. The importance is great." "I knew Otto Beneckendorf many years ago," the lady answered in a low voice. "He had just come to this country from Europe, and was teaching science at the university near which I lived as a girl. We were engaged." "Ah, so. And your betrothal was broken? For what reason, please?" Looking at her, I could scarcely recognize the community's social dictator in Mrs. Cornelia Comstock as she regarded de Grandin with wondering, frightened eyes. She shivered, as though she felt a sudden draught of chilled air, before answering. He was impossible, sir. We had vivisectionists even in those days, but this man seemed to torture poor, helpless animals for the love of it. I gave him back his ring when he boasted of one of his experiments to me. He seemed to enjoy telling how the poor beast suffered before it died. "Eh bien," de Grandin shot me a meaning glance, as though I, too, followed the thread of his examination unravelled. "We do progress. Your betrothal, then, was broken. He left you, this so cruel experimenter. Did he leave in friendship?" He leaned forward, wax cat mustaches bristling, as he waited her reply in breathless eagerness. Mrs. Comstock looked like one on the verge of fainting, as she almost whispered, "Oh, no, he left me with a terrible threat. I remember his very words. Can I ever forget them? He said, 'I go from you, but I shall return. Nothing but death can cheat me. I shall bring on you and yours a horror such as no man has known since the days before Adam.'" De Grandin almost danced as she finished speaking. "Aha!" he exclaimed, "the explanation is ours. The mystery is almost solved. Thank you, madam. If you will tell me one more little thing, I shall retire and trouble you no more. Your daughter, she is betrothed to one Monsieur Manley. Tell me, I beg, when and where did she meet this young man?" "I introduced them," the lady replied, with a return of something of her frigid manner. "Mr. Manley came to my husband with letters of introduction from an old schoolmate of his, a fellow student at the university in Cape Town." "Eh?" de Grandin almost shrieked. "Cape Town, do you say? Cape Town, South Africa? Nom du petit bonhomme, from Cape Town. When was this, madam, please?" "A year ago. Why? And Monsieur Manley, he has lived with you how long?" The question shut off her offended protest half unuttered. "Mr. Manley is stopping with us," she answered icily. He is to marry my daughter, Millicent, next month. Really, sir, I fail to see what interest the Republic of France, which you represent, and humanity, which you also claim to represent, can have in my private affairs. If—" And this Cape Town friend, de Grandin interrupted feverishly. "Tell me, his name was what, and his business?" "Tell me," he cried impatiently, extending his slender hands as though to choke the answer from her. "Nom de fusil, I must know, at once." "We do not know his street and number," Mrs. Comstock replied. "His name is Alexander Findlay, and he is a diamond factor." "Ah, bien. Thank you, madam. You have been most kind," said de Grandin, as he struck his heels together and bowed as though hinged at the hips. It was past midnight when the phone rang insistently. "Western Union speaking," a girl's voice announced over the wire. "Cablegram for Dr. de Grandin." "Ready?" "Yes," I answered, seizing the pencil and pad beside the instrument. "Read it, please." "No person by name Alexander Findlay, diamond factor, known here. No record of such person in last 5 years. Signed, Burlingame, Inspector of Police. The cable is from Cape Town, South Africa," she added, as I finished jotting down her dictation. "Very good," I replied. "Forward a typed confirmation in the morning, please." Then I went to de Grandin's room with the message. "Mille tonnerres!" he shouted, flinging the covers back as I read him the cablegram. "De Grandin, he is a fool, eh? Listen." He leaped from the bed and raced across the room to where his coat hung over a chair. Extracting a black leather notebook, almost as large as a desk dictionary, he thumbed its pages rapidly, finally found the entry he sought. "Behold! This Monsieur Calamar, whom no one knows about, he have lived here 10 months and 26 days. I have it from that so stupid real estate broker who think I ask information for a directory of scientists. That young Monsieur Manley, he have known those Comstocks for about a year. He bring them a letter of introduction from a schoolmate of Monsieur Comstock, who are unknown to the Cape Town police. Pardieu! Hereafter Jules de Grandin, he sleep all day, and prowl all night. Tomorrow, monsieur, you shall introduce me to the gun merchant. I desire to possess one Winchester rifle." The time drifted by, de Grandin going, gun in hand, each night to his lonely vigil, but no developments in the mystery of the Humphreys murder or the attack on Paul Maitland were reported. The date for Millicent Comstock's wedding approached, and the big mansion was filled to overflowing with boisterous young folks. Still de Grandin continued to invert the time, sleeping by day, patrolling by night. 2 nights before the marriage day, he accosted me as he came downstairs. "Trowbridge, my friend, you have been most patient with me. If you will come tonight, I think perhaps I can show you some result." "All right," I agreed. "I haven't the slightest idea what this folderol is about, but I'm willing to be convinced." At his request I got out my car and drove to within a block of the Comstock house, parking the machine in a small copse of trees where it would be readily accessible, yet effectually concealed. "My friend," de Grandin began as we skirted the Comstock lawn, keeping well hidden in the shadows, "I am not certain of what I do. I am like one who walks an unfamiliar path with a hoodwink on his eyes. Yet my brain tell me I follow no false road. No man knows what part Tanit, the moon goddess, plays in the affairs of men, even today when her name is forgotten by all but dusty, dry antiquaries. This we know, however, at the entrance of life our appearance is governed, in the matter of days, by the phase of the moon. You, as a physician with obstetrical knowledge, know that. 2. When the time to go approach, the crisis of disease is often governed by the moon's phase. Why this is we know not, that it is we know full well. Suppose, then, the cellular organization of a body be violently, unnaturally changed, and nature's whole force be exerted toward a readjustment. Is it not reasonable to suppose that the moon, which effect childbirth and death, might have some force to apply in such a case? I dare say, I conceded, but I don't follow you. Just what is it you expect, or suspect, de Grandin? Nothing, he answered. I suspect nothing. I affirm nothing. I deny nothing. I am agnostic, but I am hopeful. If events prove me a doting fool, making a great black luton of my own shadow, no one will be happier than I. But he who prepares for the worst is most agreeably disappointed if the best occurs. He touched my elbow. Here we rest awhile, he murmured, squatting in the shadow of a small clump of dwarf pines. That light, it is in the window of Mademoiselle Millicent's room, n'est-ce pas? Yes, I confirmed, wondering if I were on a fool's errand with a lunatic for company. The merrymaking inside the house was wearing to a close as we took our station. Within half an hour the mansion was shrouded in quiet darkness. De Grandin fidgeted nervously, fussing with the lock of his gun, ejecting and reinserting cartridges, playing a devil's tattoo on the barrel with his long, tapering fingers. Almost like a floodlight turned on the scene, the moon's radiance suddenly deluged the house, grounds, and surroundings with silver as the wind swept aside a veil of clouds. "Ah," de Grandin muttered, "now we shall see what we shall see, perhaps." As though his words had been a cue, there echoed from the house before us a scream of such wild, bewildered terror as few men have been unfortunate enough to hear. In the course of 20 years' active practice of medicine, I had heard almost every sort of cry that physical anguish can wring from tortured flesh, but never anything like this. Fear, stark, hideous fear, played on the vocal cords of the screamer like a madman twanging a harp, bringing forth a symphony of terror that stopped the breath, hot and sulphurous, in my throat, and sent an itching tingle through my scalp. "Ah!" de Grandin exclaimed in a rising tone as he grasped his rifle and stared fixedly at the house. "Grand Dieu, grant he comes forth! Only that, and I shall be content." Light flashed inside the house. The patter of terrified feet sounded among the babel of wondering, questioning voices, but the scream was not repeated. "Ah!" de Grandin breathed again, his voice razor-edged with excitement. "Look, my friend! Le gorille! Behold, he comes!" Emerging from Millicent's window, horrible as a devil from lowest hell, was a great, hairy head set low upon a pair of shoulders which must have been 4 feet across. An arm which somehow reminded me of a giant snake, slipped forth, grasped the cast-iron downspout at the corner of the house, and drew a thick-set, misshapen body after it. A leg tipped with a prehensile, hand-like foot, was thrown over the sill, and, like a spider from its lair, the monster leaped from the darkened window and hung a moment to the iron pipe with its sable body silhouetted against the white walls of the house. But what was that white-robed form which hung pendant from the grasp of the beast's free arm? My staring eyes strained across the moonlit night, and my mouth went dry with horror. Like a beautiful, white moth inert in the grasp of the spider, her fair hair unbound and falling like a golden veil before her marble-white face, her night-clothing rent into a motley of tatters, Millicent Comstock hung in the creature's grasp. "Shoot! Shoot, man! For God's sake, shoot!" I screamed, but only a whisper, inaudible 10 feet away, came from my fear-thickened lips. "Silence, fool!" de Grandin ground between his teeth, as he pressed his gun-stock against his cheek and drew the muzzle in line with the descending brute's body. Slowly, so slowly it seemed an hour was consumed in the process, the great primate descended the water-pipe, leaping the last 15 feet of the trip and crouching on the moonlit lawn, its tiny, deep-set eyes glaring malignantly as though it challenged the world for possession of its prey. I could hear de Grandin's breath rasping in his nostrils as he sighted his gun and drew the trigger. A roar like a bursting shell sounded as the smokeless powder's flash burned a gash in the night, and a bullet went screaming through the air. Again de Grandin fired, throwing the magazine mechanism with feverish haste. The monster staggered drunkenly against the house as the detonation of the first shot sounded. With the second, it dropped Millicent's body to the lawn and uttered a cry which was part roar, part snarl, and trailing one of its hairy arms helplessly, leaped towards the woods, crossing the grass plot in great, awkward leaps which reminded me, absurdly, of the bouncing of a huge inflated ball. "Attend mademoiselle," de Grandin commanded sharply, throwing a fresh cartridge into his firing chamber. "I will see to the hairy one. Have no fear. I have shot his brethren in Africa." I bent above the girl's huddled body, putting my ear to her breast. Faint but perceptible, I made out a heartbeat, and lifted her in my arms, carrying her toward the house. "Dr. Trowbridge!" Mrs. Comstock, followed by a throng of frightened, half-clothed guests, met me at the front door. "What has happened? Good heavens, Millicent!" She rushed forward, seizing her daughter's flaccid hands in both her own trembling ones. "Oh, what is it? What is it?" "Help me get Millicent to bed and get me some smelling salts and some brandy," I commanded, ignoring her questions. A few minutes later, with restoratives applied, and electric pads at her feet and back, the girl showed signs of returning consciousness. "Get out, all of you," I ordered curtly. Hysterical women, even patients' mothers, are no fit occupants for the room when consciousness is regained after profound shock. Millicent stirred in her faint, rolling her head feebly from side to side, and moaning. Oh, the ape thing, the ape thing," she whimpered in a small, childish voice. It was not till several hours later I realized she used exactly the term Paul Maitland had employed when recovering from his faint. "All right, dear," I comforted. "It's all right now. You're safe in bed. Old Dr. Trowbridge is here. He won't let anything hurt you." She half opened her lovely eyes, saw me sitting beside her, and smiled sleepily in reassurance. Next moment she was soundly and naturally asleep, both her hands clasping one of mine. "Doctor Trowbridge," Mrs. Comstock whispered from the bedroom door, "we've searched all over the place, and there is no sign of Mr. Manley. Do you suppose anything could have happened to him?" "I think it quite likely something could, and did," I answered, turning from her to smooth her daughter's hair. "Par la barbe and bouc noir," de Grandin exclaimed, as dishevelled, but with a light of exhilaration in his direct blue eyes. He met me in the Comstock hall some 2 hours later. "Chère Madame Comstock, you are to be congratulated. But for my so brave colleague, Dr. Trowbridge, and my own lowly self, your charming daughter had shared the fate of that never enough to be pitied Sarah Humphreys. Trowbridge, mon vieux, I have not been quite frank with you. I have not told you all. But this thing, it was so incredible, so seemingly impossible, that you would not have believed. Even now, knowing what you know, having seen with your 2 eyes what you have seen this night, you do not quite believe. Eh bien? Perhaps it is better so. To begin, when this sacré Benekendorf was in the madhouse, he raved continually about his confinement cheating him of his revenge, the revenge he had so long planned against one Madame Comstock of America. We French are logical, not like you English and Americans. We write down and keep for a possible reference even what a madman say. Why not? It may be useful some day. Now, friend Trowbridge, I tell you some time ago this Beneckendorf were reported in the Congo Belgique. Yes? But I do not tell you he were reported in charge of a young, half-grown gorilla. No. When this Pauve, Mademoiselle Humphreys, is killed in that so terrible manner, I remember my own African days, and I say to me, Aha! It look as if Monsieur le Gorille, the gorilla, have been about this place. I ask to know if any such have escaped from the circus or zoo from near by or far. All answers are no. Then that Sergeant Costello, he bring me to this so splendid savant, Dr. Trowbridge, and with him I go to interview that young Paul Maitland, who have encountered much strangeness on the golf links where the young woman was killed. And what do he tell me? He relate of the thing that have hair, that jump up and down like an enraged ape, and that act like a gorilla, but wear a man's evening clothes. Parbleu! It is to think, no gorilla have escape, yet what seems one is here encountered, wearing the clothes of a man. I search my memory. I remember that madman and the poor infants he turned into monkey things with his damnable serums. I say, if he can turn man-child into monkey things, why not can he turn ape things into men things, eh? I find one Dr. Kalmar live here unknown. I search about and learn a certain man here are seen coming from his place in secret. I also find in this certain man's discarded shirt the hair of a gorilla. Morbleu! I think some more, and the thoughts I think are not pleasant thoughts. I reason. Suppose this serum which make a man thing of an ape are not permanent. What then? If it are not renewed at times, the man becomes an ape again. You follow? Bien? Now, the other day, I learned something which make me think some more. This Beneckendorf, he rave against one Madame Comstock. You, Madame Comstock, admit you once knew this Beneckendorf. He have loved you, as he understand love. Now he hate you only as he, with his diseased but great brain, can hate. Is it not against you he plan his devilish scheme? I think so. I send a cablegram, never mind to who. Dr. Trowbridge knows that, and I get the answer I expect, but fear. The man in whose shirt I find those gorilla hairs is no man at all. He is one terrible masquerade of a man. So, now I reason. Suppose this masquerading monkey thing do not get his serum as expected. What will he do? I fear to answer my own question, but I do answer it just the same, and I buy a gun. This gun have bullets of soft lead, and I make them still more efficient by cutting a V-shaped notch in each of their heads. When they strike something they spread out for a space you could not cover with your hand. Voila! I take my gun and wait. Tonight what I have expect come about. I am ready. I shoot, and each time my bullets strike, it tear a great hole in the body of the man who is an ape. He drop his prey and seek the shelter his little ape brain tell him to fly to. He goes to the house of this so unknown Dr. Kalmar. I follow quick. The ape are tortured with my bullet wounds. When he reached the house of Kalmar, he is angry, and set upon this Kalmar and tear him to pieces, even as he have killed poor Sarah Humphreys before. I, arriving with my gun, I kill the gorilla with one more shot. But before I come back here I recognize the dead corpse of that Dr. Kalmar. He are one and the same as that Beneckendorf who have escaped from our Paris madhouse. I destroy his devil's brews with which he makes monkeys of men and men of monkeys. It is better their secret be never known. I think the Mademoiselle Humphreys were so unfortunate as to meet this ape-man when he were on his way to Kalmar's house, as he had been taught to come. As a man, perhaps, he knew not this Kalmar, or as we know him, Beneckendorf. But as brute, this Beneckendorf was the only man he know, his master, the man who brought him from Africa. When he find that poor girl, she scream, and his savageness became uppermost. Believe me, the gorilla is 10,000 times more savage than the lion, and he tear her to pieces. He also try to tear the young Maitland to pieces, but luckily for him and for us, he fail, and we get the story which put us on the track. Voila! It is finished. Triomphe! I make my report to the good Sergeant Costello, and show him the bodies at Calmar's house. Then I return to France. The Ministry of Health, they will be glad to know that Beneckendorf is no more. But Monsieur Grandin, Mrs. Comstock demanded, who was this man, or this ape you killed? I held my breath as de Grandin fixed his direct stare on her, then sighed with relief as he replied, I cannot say, madame. Well, Mrs. Comstock's natural disputatiousness came to the surface. I think it's very queer you know so much about him, but don't know his name. Ah, madame, he shook his head sadly, there are very many queer things in life, things which may puzzle even you. I bid you good night. When the police look for Monsieur Manley, mon Dieu, what a name for that ape thing! They will be puzzled, he told me as we walked toward my waiting motor. I must remember to warn Sergeant Costello to enter that disappearance on his books as a case permanently unsolved. No one will ever know the true facts but you, I, and the French Ministry of Health. Trowbridge, my friend. The public they would not believe, even if we told them. I wonder if they will. End of Horror on the Links, Part 2.